causing a tidal wave. Reassessed and decided it's going to be Boston's Bay instead of the Chesapeake?
No. I had always said it was going to be Boston Bay, but some of my typesetting people and my reporters and the people that did that flyer and everything else, because I was talking about the missiles that was supposed to hit Boston, missing and hitting Boston Bay, and I said, and likewise there will be missiles aimed at Washington, and Chesapeake Bay is right next to Washington, just a little bit north of Washington, and they got mixed up on that, and so when they gave me the flyer to say, that they were going to mail out, I said, hey, this is wrong, you haven't got this right, so I had to go back and cross all that out.
Well, I suppose we should be expecting this Russian invasion within a couple of days, weeks, or a month at the most.
No, I don't. I wouldn't say days or weeks. It may come this spring later on. It's when we have enough of our military and have expended enough of our armaments and things in the Mideast, that there's nobody left to defend the home base. And
about 2 million are left here.
Yeah, well, but then it will come. I don't know what time or date it will be. Now, I sent you not only that green sheet, that's what you read off of. Didn't I send you some other things too?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, because I knew about a month before the Iraq invasion of Kuwait there on the 1st of July, I had told people that nobody would believe what was about to happen,
Well, Proper, you do understand when you say things like, the sun's going to come up in the north and women will only be pregnant a few months.
Sure.
That does push credibility a little bit.
That's right. It's hard to believe, but, 4 or 5 years ago, people wouldn't believe me when I said the disintegration of the Soviet Union. I didn't say the Berlin Wall was going to fall down, but I knew that the Soviet Union was going to fall to pieces,
Well, wait a second. They're going to fall to pieces, but yet they're going to invade us?
Yeah, they'll still invade us.
How can they do both?
Well, the military might of Soviet Russia is really controlled by, the reason it's called Russia, by the Russian element that's back close to the Ural Mountains and in that area of Russia that's got, I can't remember, 53 or 55% of the Soviet Union is actually Russian. The rest of it now is Polish and Czechoslovakian and Yugoslavian and the Baltics and all these other nationalities. But about 50, I think it's 53 or 54% of it is actually Russian. And that is one united state that is very near the Ural Mountains there in central Russia. And that will hold the military force together and be what will actually invade us.
So I guess what we're really talking about here is Armageddon by the spring.
Not Armageddon.
No.
Oh, that's probably a decade away, maybe even, I know it's longer.
So who's going to be left to fight Armageddon after all of this stuff?
Well, there are almost 5 billion people on the earth, It talks about in the book of Revelation that a third of the men and a third of the sea and a third of the beasts on the earth and a third of the trees and a third of everything will be burned up in this great fire. Well, that's a couple of billion people. That still leaves 2/3 of the people on the earth.
Well, there aren't an awful lot of trees over there, nor that many people.
No, not over there, but there sure are here.
We have a third of the trees?
Well, not only here, but
5% of the land mass, I believe.
Well, there's also in South America, the great rainforests, and then all the trees in Europe and all over the entire.
So, filthy Russian bear is going to attack the rainforest in South America?
Well, eventually it'll probably, the fallout could contaminate the southern atmosphere and cause it. I don't know exactly. I just know what it says in the book of Revelation. It says a third of the fish in the sea will die, and a third of, there's a lot of ocean. And a third of the trees will be burned up, and a third of the men on the earth destroyed. So that's a couple of billion people.
Well, what makes you so sure this thing in the Persian Gulf is the beginning?
Well, because the Dead Sea Scrolls speak of the last great war between the sons of darkness and the sons of light will begin in Mesopotamia. Now, that's what it calls it. It doesn't say Iraq. It says Mesopotamia. But Mesopotamia was the name for the ancient valley that was between the Tigris and the Euphrates River that flowed from what is Assyria or what we call just Syria today, but it was Assyria in ancient times where the city of Nineveh was. Remember when Jonah was swallowed by the whale, and then he was puked up on the beach, and then he walked the 600 miles to Nineveh? Well, Nineveh was in Assyria, and the Euphrates Valley flows from up there where the Tigris and Euphrates are, up in Nineveh, all the way down to the Persian Gulf. And that was called Mesopotamia for thousands of years. The Dead Sea Scrolls say that the last great war will begin in Mesopotamia. Then it will move on to Lydia, which is what we call today West Turkey, over near the Aegean Sea, close to the Greece.
Wait a second. You mean the war in this country between the Soviets and ourselves with 100 million Americans killed isn't the last great war?
Well, let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
The Iraq War, what we call the Iraq War, is the beginning of the last great war. It talks about the war moving from Mesopotamia into what we call today West Turkey, around the Aegean Sea. Then the third year moves into the East Turkey and into Syria, and the fourth year on into Iran, and the seventh and eighth years on down into India.
Oh, geez. Prophet, I don't know. I don't think the American people are going to put up with a war lasting 8 years over there.
Well, before that time, I'm saying, when we have enough of our military armaments and enough of our supplies expended over there, we're spending $500 million a day right now, and shooting off a lot of bangs. In fact, I saw the other day where 20% of our cruise missiles had been used over there. We had, I think they said, 1,300 cruise missiles, and
we weren't really planning on using those cruise missiles against the Russians. Well, they were always meant for smaller wars.
I don't know who they were meant for, but they've expended 20% of them now, and that was a couple days ago I saw that. So in the first 5 days, we used 20% of our cruise missiles. Well, when we've used enough of our ammunition, and we've got all of our boys, 8,000 miles from home, and engaged in a very fierce battle over there, and when it goes into the ground war, then we'll have terrible resistance.
Then the filthy Russians can.
Then the Russians will say, "Hey, let's go take it."
Why are all these brown people going to be wanting to come here if there's going to be all this grief? The cities sinking and the tidal waves and the wars and that kind of stuff. Well,
because by that time the Soviets will have attacked and done tremendous damage. I said there on that flyer, that would kill 100 million people. Many of our cities will still be standing. They'll just be desolate, uninhabited. There won't be anybody there, and tens of.
What about the Soviets?
Of millions of people. Well, we'll end up eventually. We'll be able to rid the Soviets. Like I put on that flyer, I said eventual victory over the Soviets, because that's going to take a few years to fight that battle. But in the meantime, a lot of the South American people will see that our cities are desolate and uninhabited, and they will move north.
Unbelievable. The women.
I can only tell you what I see.
The women and the short pregnancies. What's the logic behind that?
I have no idea at all, but I know that will happen. It's like when I saw the sun come up in the north a couple of years ago.
Saw the sun come up in the north?
Yeah, the sun will come up in the north. And I don't know.
Oh, you didn't actually. I mean, you foresaw it. You didn't actually see the sun come up.
No.
Oh,
I saw it.
Maybe a little bit too much of a Sacramento wine or something.
No. I saw it in vision. I saw, here in the valley where I live close to the mountains. It's only maybe a little more than 3/4 of a mile to the mountains that go up 3,000-4,000 feet above me. And so I live on the very eastern edge of a valley that's only 15 miles wide, and it runs lengthwise north and south. Well, I saw the sun come up over Beaver in this vision, which is to our north, and I don't know how many years. I would suspect that it would be decades from now, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. I don't know where it was. About a year ago, that was a couple of years ago that I saw that vision. About a year ago, I noticed in Isaiah, I can't even remember the chapter now. I think it was either 11 or 13. 13. In the 13th chapter of Isaiah, he was talking about when the earth shall wobble to and fro. Well, you know how when you spin a top and you put it down on the ground and pull a string, you know, and it starts spinning, it spins real fast. But as it slows down, it starts wobbling side to side. Well, I've reasoned in my own mind, if Isaiah was right, which I think he probably was, that the earth is going to wobble to and fro. Maybe one of those wobbles is where I saw the sun come up in the north. But I saw what I saw.
21 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. My guest on the telephone line is none other than the Parowan prophet, otherwise known as Leland Freeborn. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, go for it. The telephone number 591-8900-591-8900. Prophet, if I could ask you to hold on, please. Let me do that. There we go. Take a little break here. I think we all need it. Let's see, mostly cloudy for the remainder of the afternoon. Clearing very cold tonight, mostly sunny but cold for tomorrow. An overnight low around 0. Tomorrow's high about 17 whopping degrees. The official temp, it's 19 along the lakefront, 24. WLS across the clock. Parowan prophet on the telephone line with us. We'll go right to the phones. Southside Chicago. Hi there, Southside. You're on the air at WLS.
How you doing, Bob?
Pretty good.
I'd like to ask the prophet about this prediction that the Russian army would invade the continent of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
When all this supposed to take place, and how are you supposed to do this?
Well, I would suppose it may be a year or two. You know, it could come anytime in the next few months, you know, in this spring. I don't know when they're going to do it, but I know they will do it. I know the missiles will fly. I've seen, as I told you on the last program we talked last March, I've seen the streaks of light coming over the North Pole, and people now are watching these news, and they can see that these missiles and Patriot missiles and others, they do make streaks of light, just like I've seen for years, you know.
Yeah.
And
so do firecrackers, prophet.
Pardon?
So do firecrackers.
Well, yeah, these sure aren't firecrackers. So
okay. My next question. I mean, you know, how are they supposed to move a large army across 5,000 miles of ocean without us knowing it? I mean,
well, they will come over the North Pole.
Over the North Pole.
Yeah, they'll come over the North Pole from Siberia, and they will first, I guess, come attack Alaska and take Alaska, and the land mass, the army will come down across Canada. I had as I told you on that program a year ago, I had a vision of armies coming across Canada down into the area of the Great Lakes. You remember that, Bob?
There aren't an awful lot of roads in that neighborhood for a big army to come quickly.
Okay.
I looked up there, I told you it was in the 13th chapter of Isaiah. Let me read that. It was in the 13th and in the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
13th chapter of Isaiah, he says in the 13th verse, Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, in the day of his fierce anger. And in the 24th chapter it says, And the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. And in that day the Lord shall punish the host of the ones that are on high.
That's true. Up there, summer only lasts one day, and we have a good time.
Cheese doesn't freeze very well.
It doesn't cheese up there because we eat it all the time. It doesn't freeze.
By the way, that cheese you gave me for Christmas was really decent. Really
all
good.
Right. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you.
Eat it before a trip, and you won't have to get constipated. Good Wisconsin cheese. It'll bind you up, young man. The WLS temperature along the lake is 22. Our next news be at 6 o'clock. Bulletins at once, and thank God thus far. Things today have been relatively calm because the Patriots did their job over Israel and in Saudi Arabia. So we're still keeping an eye on everything around us, Bob. When news breaks out, we break in. And I'm Jim Johnson, WLS, Talk Radio 890 News. Now back to more talk. Here's Bob, my buddy Lassiter.
Thank you, Johnson, my journalist on the other end of the telephone here, the Parowan prophet. to, let's see, oh my God. Is that
Bob?
really what you, yes, sir.
Say, that flyer that you've got there, it says Iraq War, Southern Utah readers have been warned.
Yeah,
I just heard where on your news here where it says that they're moving troops forward. Can you read to the people there where it says about that I said that we'd lose more men in 1 month than the 58,000?
Remember
that?
Which one is that?
Iraq War.
Yeah, it's 2 pages.
Well,
which date is it?
Read the one. Iraq War, Southern Utah readers have been warned.
Okay, well, that's at the top of the page. Okay,
right.
First column.
The first column, go down about halfway. It says, I'll write more about later years of the war in future flyers. Go ahead, read it.
About halfway.
In the first paragraph.
Oh, in the first paragraph. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just read the whole first paragraph. Do you know the story of Cinderella? Well, God knows the story of the world. Southern Utah people were warned the war was about to happen. The Dead Sea Scrolls, found in 1947, written thousands of years ago, tell of the war starting in Iraq. The second year expanding into West Turkey near the Aegean Sea. The third year in East Turkey. I still don't think the American people are going to put up with a war that long, sir. The third year, where was I here?
Another battle?
In East Turkey, and another battle in... Karakamesh, okay, near the land of Uz? Uz. Home of Job. See Job 1:1. Kurdistan and Armenia, down to Syria and Jordan. I'll write more about last years of the war and future flyers. People, why don't you tell them now?
Go ahead, keep reading.
Okay. People who think it will be over in months haven't read God's story. I've told the Southern Utah Spectrum we would lose more men in 1 month in this war than the 58,000 lost in Vietnam. I know you don't believe it now, but God's prophets have foretold it all.
Now, I got a revelation last September, on the 28th of September, that's in a flyer, that if your people will send me a self-addressed stamped envelope and $1 to help cover the printing costs, and the people that have to stuff the envelopes, I'll send it to them. It tells that there will be thousands of them dying like that. We'll lose.
Oh, you're giving it away now. Now they're not to send for it.
Well, they can read the revelation for themselves. I mean, it's more than just that. There's a lot of things said in it.
Okay, there's a caller on line 7 that I think wants me to blow you off here. Huntley, hi there. You're on the air, WLS.
Hello.
Hello.
Bob,
you want to know how to put an end to all of this, right?
No. I wanted to ask the prophet, while he was in his coma and he met Christ, did he think to ask him why he was going to let all this happen? And second part of the question, is there anything we can do to stop it?
Oh, good. It says here on the screen, is there any way to stop all of this? I thought you meant, is there any way to, blow the prophet out before the end of the hour?
No, I'll tell you this. The Lord said, just like he said, and he said to me in this revelation on 28th of September that I just spoke of, that he was going to fulfill the words of his servants. All those men that made those prophecies and predictions, that he was going to fulfill the words of the servants. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. All we can do is prepare and get our own lives in order and get ready for it. It's just like if, I'm telling you right now, you're on the Titanic. I'm telling you, we're going to hit an iceberg. Go get a life jacket. That's what I'm telling you. There's nothing you can do but get yourself prepared.
I thought you were telling people to dig bomb shelters.
That's right. But, that's a life jacket. That's what I'm saying. We're going to hit an iceberg. It's going to happen. We're on the Titanic. It has been foreordained. It's been foretold. It's going to happen.
To the south side we go this time. Hi, South. You're on the air, WLS.
Yeah, I'd like to know if the prophet can see into the future, if he can give me tomorrow's lottery number.
No, I'm not a fortune teller. I'll tell you this. People have asked me before, can you tell me this or tell me that? In all seriousness. And I can't decide. I don't go to bed and say, I'm going to dream this or I'm going to dream that. I go to bed a lot of nights and I just sleep. I don't dream.
Tinley Park. Hi there, Tinley. You're on the air, WLS. Hello, Tinley Park. Once. Twice. You can hear him whistling in the back down. Put down a hash mark. I get the damn 45 cents. Okay, this time it is Elmhurst. Hello there, Elm. You're on the air at WLS.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
Pretty good.
I'd like to ask.
It's got 45 cents for the guy whistling in the background.
I'd like to ask a couple questions of the Prophet. I didn't hear the entire show, so he may have covered some of this. Prophet?
Yeah.
You claim to be a true prophet of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do. Are you right 100% of the time?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. And I know what it says in Deuteronomy, you know.
Oh, what does it say?
Oh, I'd have to turn to it, you know. If
Oh, just paraphrase for us again. Tom.
Yeah, just paraphrase.
I don't like to misquote the word.
No, you
everybody knows you're just paraphrasing.
What is it?
Well, what it is that I had a discussion several years ago with an assistant pastor from the church I go to, and we were talking about psychics and prophets and things like that. And his advice to me was, unless somebody is 100% accurate, don't think he's a true prophet of God, because there's many false prophets.
Once again, here's Bob Lassiter.
By the way, a very brief programming note before we go back to the Parowan Prophet. Coming up in the third and final hour this afternoon, something a little bit different. We are dipping into the mailbag. We got 6 letters today, like you won't believe, all in a row, all at one time, sitting there on top of the desk. We've had some bizarre callers of late. Well, the mail is really getting strange. If you got tape, I highly recommend you fire it up. That's coming up right after the news at 6. I don't know how long this is going to take, so I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to point out that some of these are typed, some of them are not. Those that are not typed tend to be in the handwriting of the type of individual that writes this kind of a letter. Consequently, it is very difficult to read. So please, I promise you, it will be worth it, but some of them will be a little bit difficult to read. These all came in one day. One day, one sitting. 4 of them were opened up back to back. This one was not actually sent to me, but was addressed to, as I told you right before the newscast, the station mismanager. Sir, I am amazed that this station allows this Iraq supporter, Baghdad Bob, to continue to spew his contempt for this country and its government. He doesn't display accepted ethical conduct in addressing the prestigious office of President of the United States. He derogatively refers to him as George. He encourages the protesters, the retarded, the mentally ill, restrict one of his shows to children so that he could instruct them in hatred of our country. I strongly suggest that he may have pedophilia tendencies. As time goes by, we all would like to achieve fame in life and leave our mark in the sands of time. He can be sure his memory in life will rank with other renowned haters of this country, like Goebbels, Tokyo Rose, and Jane Fonda. At a time like this, you would think that this station would have someone sane enough to stand behind our government and soldiers. God bless America. The tragedy, the caller didn't give us his name and address. Mr. Turnip faithfully answers all such letters, and I understand that they are suitable for framing. This does not fall into the category, but this one I've got to deal with anyway. This is not a letter, this is a fax that came in moments ago. Dear Bob, I have always admired your analysis and courage to confront tough issues with clarity of mind. Over the past week, I have become increasingly confused over your present stance on the war in the Gulf. It seems to me that any credible person would agree that Saddam Hussein is a vile creature, but he did not just become vile on August the 2nd. His character was forged long before this date. So it seems to me that since our administration undoubtedly was aware that he is a despicable tyrant, that this is not the reason for the war. I have heard you say it would be criminal for us to leave Hussein in power. No, you haven't, sir. You've heard me say it. Back to the mail. Dear Bob, although I live in McHenry, I've been in Arizona since late December, and therefore have missed the great guru of WLS. Fortunately, we can get your pal Rush out here, so in some ways we have the best of both worlds. I think that was a cheap shot at Nina. I wonder how you have managed to wriggle out of your oft-repeated pronouncement that the Iraqi mess was all for the benefit of George Bush and his big oil pals. As of today, oil is at about $20 a barrel, or a little less than it was on August 3rd. If you're going to masquerade as an economics expert, for God's sake, learn something about economics. Oil is traded on the world market and is subject to the whims and fears of the market. By the way, Econ Major, practically all prices are set that way to a degree. I'm just as sorry as you are to see our servicemen getting killed, but I differ with you as to the necessity of this war. We're both entitled to our opinions, but as I remember, you screamed bloody murder at anyone who disagreed with you. One more thing before you hit the streets with the protesters. The United States is not bankrupt. I wish you and some of your oddball callers would knock it off. U.S. government bonds are doing very well. And if the country were bankrupt, this simply would not be the case. Yours truly, and I can't even begin to read the... Sir, I never said that the war was to help Bush and his big oil pals. I always said no, I had nothing to do with it. Thanks to you, Lassiter. Lassiter, L-A-S-S-I-T-E. That is A-S-S-I-T-E. Too long I met you, obnoxious Lassiter. Must have been so excited by the time he got to the last sentence. I think he means, I long to meet you, obnoxious Lassiter. Unfortunately, he did not give us his return address, because otherwise I would have stopped over after the show this evening so that he could have met his belongings. This just starts out, Mr. Lassiter. Mr. Lassiter, I'll try to be as brief as possible, for I know now that no matter how many letters I write to you, or how many others do the same, your I don't give a damned attitude will not change. This is my second letter on the same subject. Pete, why didn't you tell this guy I'd written it before? I'd have changed my ways. I like to make people write twice. This is my second letter on the subject, the Persian Gulf. Most people and the media refer to the same as war, but you keep insisting on giving it a name of your own, which presently I cannot recall, and you grammatically could be right. In any event, my first letter criticized your programming, wherein you started with the cheerleaders bit, followed by the Vietnam I don't give a damn bit. No, sir, they're one and the same. It's Country Joe and the Fish. It's a song from back in the 1970s, and actually it's a cleaned-up version for radio. They started with a cheer called the Fish Cheer, but it wasn't fish that they were spelling out. And they're really one and the same. Let's see. But most of all, my criticism dealt with the unnecessary need of bringing to the listener's ears the repetition over and over of body bags, wheelchairs, dead soldiers covered with flies, etc. In all, you were portraying in words the horror of war. It was my feeling, then and still is, that this kind of reminder was totally a torture for the people who do have sons and daughters serving in this now called Desert Storm military action. Don't you have the slightest compassion? These people with sons and daughters in action fear and see these horrors of war 24 hours a day. They see those body bags. They see death in the war way. And the decent and the merciful way for us is to help them live through such an ordeal. You obviously prefer ratings at the expense of their mental agony. I don't. Yes, sir. I learned a long time ago in DJ school, come in and say body bags over and over again, you'll beat anybody in the market. Throw in a few wheelchairs and we'll even pick up some women. I won't write any more, because since my last letter, your behavior has not changed one bit in all of your recent programming. I wish calling your program on two occasions. I risked calling your program on two occasions. The first, a long wait. A long, eventual hang-up. The second, I guess I was too out of order with haste. I have finally come to the conclusion that you are scum, all with capital letters. There's no way of beating you. On the air, you have a cutoff gun, and your 10-second delay that shuts the caller up. Physically, well, there are laws to protect your kind. Those laws are fair. Your rights for opposition and dissent are protected. So are mine. The difference, however, is that you can do it, and you do it over a 50,000-watt radio station. Take that cutoff button and microwave from you, and you are the rottenest thing that I can think of. Once again, you thank God, which you do not believe in, that you live in USA. All right. Great afternoon. Dear Bob, I was listening to your broadcast the other day, and I believe your intentions are very good. I believe there should be peace, after all. I think it says somewhere that blessed are the peacemakers, so they shall inherit the earth. The good will be prosecuted and must hang tough when it comes to trying to reach the American public. I would like to suggest here that you may try a different approach, a peaceful approach, a more subdued approach. After all, this could cost you your job. Prayer is the most powerful weapon we have on this earth, and if we would spend as much time on our knees as we do on our butts, it would help. No way, lady. I'm not going to kneel through this show. I got bad knees. Damn thing's 3 hours long. Our world leaders are in need of prayer, not judgment. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. War is not of God, it is of man. Yeah, lady, that's why I criticize the guy. Jeez. Who in their right mind wants bloodshed? The media leads us only to believe what they say. Unfortunately, you have a seat in the public eye. Unfortunately. Who'd you rather have here, lady? Michael Levine? Oh, it's okay. Very few people have. Therefore, your bread and butter is all involved with this. Regain your self-control. Hang tough in your convictions, and the Lord will be with you. This war will be the one to start a series of wars. Our only way out is prayer, fasting, and the sacraments. I tried calling that guy Don, and my call was screamed. I told them the boys overseas needed prayer. All Americans will become... They screamed out and... Soft to bear, I would not want to wish that pain on anyone. All of America will be affected by this. The Jews will flourish, but their suffering will come in the end. Here's the saddest part. They have now said vets cannot get money for being affected by Agent Orange because of budget cuts. That's how they have taken care of our soldiers. It saddens me to think that 1 in 5 will be affected. With all the emotional turmoil that country follows Vietnam vets, how can you see what's happening until the very end? Dear Mr. Lassiter, you will notice that I have shown you the proper respect by addressing you as Mr. Lassiter, even though I do not agree with your opinions. I say this because I am disappointed in the way that you refer to our president. Although you may not agree with the decisions that he has made, your disrespect for the office of the presidency and the person elected by the people to hold that office is less than proper for a man in your position, having access to the airwaves. You mean I could disrespect the president, lady, if I didn't have a gig on the radio? That would be okay with you? I listen to your program most evenings on my way home from work, although, to tell the truth, I don't know why. Because you're a masochist. I suppose that I can chalk it up to disbelief that someone who enjoys the benefits that this country offers seems to delight in turning his back on it when things are not to his liking. Now to my point. Since you are probably losing interest already, just as you do with your callers when they do not agree with your opinions. The writer went on to write 3 more pages after saying this. With a great Prussian's duty to rally around him to show the indivisibility of this nation. You remember the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you understand what it really means? I doubt it. Sir, if you do not believe in the greatness of this country and what our flag stands for, then why do you continue to reap the benefits of it? If you believe that we should not help those who have been violated and are not strong enough to defend themselves, then I hope you never find yourself in need and have it refused. I think the writer really means it the other way around. Our troops certainly do not need to hear about the unrest going on in this country. They are doing their best to carry out the duty assigned to them. They need to know that we are all behind them. protests only cause them to doubt their strength and belief in what they've been called upon to do. The old cliche, a country divided cannot stand, is fact. We can only continue to be strong if we all work together to find solutions rather than to find fault. The decision has been made. Protesting did very little to stop the Vietnam War. It simply divided the country, and yes, Mr. Lassiter, Vietnam vets were spat upon both physically and mentally. True enough, the entire country let them down when they returned. Industry turned its back on them for job opportunities. The government also gave them little assistance. But think about why that happened. Everyone behind them during that war, as long as it may have been, and showed them backbone by giving them our full support. They would have come home as the heroes that they were. The protests are what caused the negativism that they came home to. They only did. Yes, ma'am, it was those damn hippies that made all those rich captains of industry and all those people down there in Washington turn their backs on them vets.
Well, that's all some people in blue jeans out protesting the war. So I'm going to not hire a vet.
Our topic is support the troops. Like I say, coming from a long military family, I can tell you we have no illusions that the troops are an expendable resource, no more than a tank, a missile, an aircraft, anything else. And at the point that you decide to wage war, you have made the moral decision that the policy that you wish to engage in which case war, is of greater overall value than the lives of the resources, namely the soldiers. So to say that people, this idea that how can you be opposed to the war and say you support the troops, well, from a logical standpoint, that's the only way you could be totally for the troops. Now,
well, first of all, even the people who are in favor of the war will tell you they're opposed to war.
Right.
So I think, in essence, what the question would be properly phrased as would be, how can you be opposed to the policy and support the troops? And the answer to that is real easy.
Exactly. That's my point from a logical standpoint. But the reason we do that, the reason that when we support a policy that is going to place people in peril where they may lose their lives or become maimed or mutilated, in order to sleep better, we tell ourselves, by God, we really support the troops, because there's that gnawing little part of us that knows that the policy has been chosen that is going to place those troops, those people, at risk. So, and again, once we do engage in that, all we're really saying is we will do our best to minimize that peril and minimize the effects. But the reality is it is the policy itself which has been chosen over the lives of the troops. Otherwise, you couldn't have made that choice. Anyway, I guess I get really concerned when I hear people say a lot of those things that some of these people calling up have said. There's an almost fascist Nazi sort of ring to it of, how dare you have anything but the party line? How dare you say anything? People talk about learning from history, and then they ought to look around now and just learn from the present. We've been given ample evidence of what happens when you, for instance, have fundamentalist religious fanatics running the country. Yet here at home we have people who want to basically create that type of a situation here in this country. We have people who in one breath talk about how terrible it is that the Soviets have suppressed free speech in the press in a given country, and then 5 minutes later complain about our own media. I'll tell you, I've had, as I say, from my family, close association with the military for a long time, and as bad as our press may be, with all of their faults and everything else, I ask people, would you honestly tell me you would trust government officials to manage the news?
My God, suppose Ed Meese was, oh my God.
Can you imagine? I mean, let's get real. Our system is not perfect. An open society has cost to it. Just think about it. That's why, like it or not, to have a free society, and we stand for freedom, land of the free, that has a cost to it that a lot of these people don't want to deal with. They'd like to have a certain type of dictatorship on the one hand, yet have the freedoms on the other. Well, there is a cost to freedom. It's not merely war, it's tolerance. And, I think these people should be thinking just a little more.
I thank you very much. Off it is to a car phone. Car, you're on the air, WLS.
Yes, good evening, Bob. First of all, I I go through the same dilemma that everybody. I don't support our president, but I do support the troops. The thing that I did, and I heard you read the letter last night, which I thought was excellent. I found a serviceman from our area who is in Saudi Arabia, and I've been corresponding with him for the last 2.5 months.
I never thought I'd end up doing anything like that, to tell you the truth. I never thought that. Anyway,
question. I just heard on the newscast. I want to get your perspective. Johnson mentioned the fact that several of the North African nations are talking about convening the UN, la-di-da, so on and so forth. If the UN were to call a ceasefire to this, do you think that George would abide by it?
No, he wouldn't let them call a ceasefire. They will veto it before it gets to that point. And on top of that, they're trying to block the 5 North African nations from even having the opportunity of calling the meeting.
Yes, the other thing, and I get a sneaking suspicion, the feeling I've had is you can start a war, but you can never shut it off. And that of most major wars, those who start it are the ones who end up on the short end of the stick when it ends.
Well, it's way, way too soon in this part of the war to even think about such things. The adrenaline is still pumping. The people in charge of it's the last thing in the world they want to hear. You call ceasefires and you get tired.
Right. You've invested too much so far to turn back. But I just have a feeling, and I don't know where it comes from, but we're heading for our own DNPN pool here.
Could be.
There's some sort of a trap. Hussein's had as much time, if not longer, to be able to develop some sort of a strategy on his own home turf.
You know, there's a certain morbid curiosity inside of me that's saying, well, come on, what the hell are you going to do, man? How much longer do I got to wait?
I think your curiosity is shared by the rest of us. That's why when we started getting these initial reports, we're clobbering his, you know what, that everybody was up and jumping, that this is how it's going to go all the way out. But just as I say, looking back on all the major wars for the last 100 years, everyone who's launched one is always it's been their own downfall.
Thank you much, my friend.
Thank you so much, Bob.
591-8900, 591-8900. Northbrook, hi there, North. You're on the air, WLS.
Hi, Bob. I just wanted to comment. I thoroughly enjoyed your program today with the Prophet. After 8 days of war talk, he was just fun to listen to.
Yeah, he sent me some stuff last week, and I looked at it, and I said, well, let's gamble and book him, and hopefully it'll be a day when there's not something terribly, terribly grave, because if there was, I would have blown him right out. I would have never put him on the air.
You know, it reminded me of the Hanier and McEnany's special Christmas show about the adults talking to Santa Claus.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
It was fun. It was kind of, just something that you can just kind of escape with, and it was good, and your letter was beautiful. That you wrote to.
It took me an hour and a half to write that letter last night.
I bet. You have such a beautiful voice on the radio. Are you familiar with Mark Twain's War Prayer?
Vaguely. I know.
I'd have to send you a fax copy if you feel.
Hey, I'd appreciate it.
I'd love for you to read it because it kind of, just it's what you pray for. You pray for victory, but what are you really praying for? And I think I would love to have you read it someday.
Please, send it to me. I'd appreciate that.
I will. How will I get your fax number? Should I hold on to it?
Wait a second. I've got it down over here. 984. 984. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. 5305.
5305.
984.
984, right?
Pardon?
984-5305.
Right.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
591-8900, 591-8900. Well, she just blew a bit that I was going to do. I mean, she was a nice lady, and I had to give her the real fax number. What I was going to do, right towards the end of the show, it said that the Parowan Prophet had a fax number. I was going to give out Steve and Gary's number and let them get all of his. I'll put this back in my briefcase. She better send that thing now. Blew my bit. Let's see here. New Lennox. Hi there, New. You're on the air at WLS.
How you doing, Robert?
Pretty good.
Bob, I'm calling tonight to vent my anger. I don't want to be considered an anti-Semite, and I don't like to listen to your station in the morning for obvious reasons. I was listening to WGN, and I believe that Jansen should have the news release that came across that Israel was going to bill us and I could be wrong on this.
Well, it's not bill us. They're asking us.
Asking. All right. Whatever the semantics might be. $3 billion for future lawsuits?
No.
That was the way it came over.
Well, that's incorrect. They're asking for $3 billion to compensate them for the loss of income, basically tourism, because of the war.
Okay, that sounds about my smash wrong.
And actually, I saw two versions of that story. The other version I saw was $17 billion.
Well, they're asking for another $8 or $9 billion for immigration or something.
That's right. Yeah, that was to help resettle the Russian immigrants. There's a legitimate request. I have very mixed emotions on the $3 billion for the lost tourism. However, if you'll recall, for 10 years, this government, our government, has been saying, to the Soviets, let the Jewish people go, let them immigrate to Israel. And finally, when they said, oh, okay, we'll let them go. I mean, in essence, Israel has this mass migration because of U.S. policy. Now, I don't want to part with $14, $15 billion. We don't have it. We have to go out and borrow it. But it does make for an interesting intellectual question.
Okay, now that you posed it that way, that makes a little bit more sense. The only thing I struggle with is his bodies are not even cold or not even buried over there. And the first response we get out of this country is a monetary value that we can put to them when they...
Unfortunately, the second half of the argument, and this is why I'm torn down the middle, and that is that Israel is not a wealthy nation. And Israel lives on the brink economically every day of its life. So therefore, if Israel cannot afford to play along with the policy in the Middle East that is likely to continue for years to come,
amen.
That sets up, so, if Israel can't afford to rearm itself, if Israel can't afford to keep a standing army...
We got big shoulders, right?
Well, no, then we've got another power vacuum in that part of the world. It's an impossible situation. Impossible. There's no way out.
And I would want to thank you for one thing tonight. You brought some levity into my life when you had that buffoon, the prophet on them. I rolled around in my garage for an hour. I couldn't have laughed more.
Oh, man, it's the first time I felt silly in 2 weeks. And I'm really glad for it.
Couldn't have been better.
Really glad for it.
God love you, sir.
Thank you. 591-8900, 591-8900. New York. Hello there, New York. You're on the air at WLS.
Hey, Barbara. How are you?
Pretty good.
I don't know if you recall the voice, but anyway, I'm glad to hear you. I'm up here in Schenectady.
Uh-huh. Oh, my God, Treasure Island.
Treasure Island, Florida, right?
What street do you live on?
Down there?
Yeah.
I live on Alcatraz.
Alcatraz.
Off of Golf Boulevard there, behind the Careless Navigator, Howard Johnson.
Yeah, right around Fowler. Fowler was, I think it was on 94th.
Yeah. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Well, I'll tell you, when I'm on shortwave radio, it's kind of good one, kind of this war crisis here, and happened to be skiing up there and what have you. I remember you saying you were going to Chicago and hitting the band one night, and I caught you on there a couple of nights ago, and I'll tell you, I was really elated, happy, because we really miss you down there. And where I live up here in Schenectady, which is about 12 miles outside the capital of New York, Albany, they've got some talk shows, but they're very, very passionate people, and they don't make you think, Bob, like you used to. They don't make you think. It's just yes and no, and that's it. But I tune in pretty much in the evening here. Like I said, I've been up here for about 4 months, get ready to go back down the island in a couple of weeks. But really nice to hear your voice.
Say hello to the people down there for me.
I will, Bob, and for anybody out there, like I said, we really miss Bob Lassiter down there, and I hope that...
Lines are now open at 591-8900. Once again, here's Bob Lassiter.
To South Dakota we go this time. Hi there, South. You're on the air.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I was just calling. You had a caller last night to congratulate you. I was going to call and tell you that I agree with you 100%. You had a caller that called about bringing home the soldiers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you told him to clean up his act, so to speak.
Oh, the guy who was in favor of the protesting. Yeah.
Yep, in favor of the protest. And this is my first war. I mean, I was born when Vietnam was going on. And I don't like war not as much as anybody else does, but the same aspect, if you would bring home the soldiers right now, Saddam would have more power than he does right now.
Well, it literally, after stirring up that area of the world, I guess that's what that fax was referring to, it would be criminal. What we have done in that part of the world, how we have destabilized it. At this point of the game, you've got to stay there and try to do your best to put it back together.
Yeah, and then get out of there as soon as possible afterwards.
I mean, it doesn't please me, but it would literally be criminal to just say, oh, well, we've changed our minds. You guys straighten this mess out now and walk away.
Very well true. Besides that, Saddam would be walking all over saying, I beat the United States, one of the superpowers.
Well, and on top of that, he also has quite a bit of a grudge against a lot of other countries that we would be just, in essence, laying open to slaughter. Now that we've sucked in the Saudis, sucked in the Egyptians, sucked in the Syrians, sucked in everybody else, most everybody else in the region, I'm sure that Saddam is a little bit unhappy with those people. And he's a hell of a lot stronger militarily than they are.
This is so much true with his bomb shelters and everything else that he's got. And I'm also one of your average Americans, so keep up the good job.
I'll do my best. Be good. My, oh my, oh my. Did you tape those letters? You guys got to start listening to me. Got to start believing me. Brings us to the end of this historic broadcast. Another one in the can. We'll try to put another one in the can tomorrow about 4 o'clock. I hope to be part of it. Hey, love you, Chicago.
Stay informed during the war in the Persian Gulf.